Hey, everybody, I am starting the live stream, but give me just a minute. Bob, are you able to hear me okay?
Sort of, yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Hey, everybody, I am starting the live stream, but give me... Sorry about that. I'm just embedding the link on our website. I just know that we are live on YouTube.
Here we go.
And the website. Hey, Bob, is that you?
Yes. Can
Great,
you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Marilyn? Oh. Never mind. Faster for me. This is so different than what it is when I'm in Upper Adams.
Mike, I'm clicking unmute for Amy Beth, and I'm not able to actually do it. When I click on it, it doesn't do anything.
Looks like she's frozen.
Hey, Mike. Mike Rader, can you hear me? I'm having trouble hearing you. Are you on mute? Am I on mute possibly or not? I'm having trouble hearing you. I can see you talking. All right, give us just one more minute here. We're waiting on Amy Beth to rejoin us, and Mike, I'm still not able to hear you. Okay. I know you have to hit *6 in order to unmute, but it doesn't look like you're muted. But maybe give that a whirl.
How's that sound?
Oh, I can hear you. That's much better. Yep.
Hi, can you guys hear me? It's Amy Beth.
Hey, Amy Beth, we can hear you.
Okay, great. And I'm not sure what the problem was, but I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for your patience. I think we're ready to get started. Belinda?
Yes. Good evening, board and administrators. Tonight, Monday, December 7th, I will call the gavel the meeting to order. The meeting is now called to order. It is 7:06 for the record. This is the annual reorganization meeting of the Gettysburg Area School Board of Directors. The following members are holdovers: Mr. Michael Dixon, Mr. Kenneth Hassinger, Mr. Sylvan Hershey, Mrs. Amy Beth Hodges, Mr. Tim and Lynn, Mrs. Kathleen Pratt, Dr. Alan Moyer, Mr. Tim Signan, and Dr. Carrie Spalding. Will the recording secretary please note the roll call, please? As part of the reorganizational process, from our holdover membership, we must elect a temporary president whose term shall exist only until the president is elected later in the agenda. Nominations are now in order for the office of temporary president of this meeting. Do I hear any nominations?
This is Mike Dickerson. I nominate Sylvan Hershey.
I second that nomination. This is Al Moyer. I second the nomination of Sylvan for temporary president.
All right, I have a motion and a second for Mr. Sylvan Hershey. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, a motion to close the nominations and direct the secretary to cast the anonymous ballot for the nominee is in order. All those in favor of the motion of nominating Sylvan Hershey as the temporary president, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Mr. Hershey is declared the elected temporary president, and Mr. Temporary President is able to take the chair, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. My pleasure. Nominations are now in order for the office of Board President. Do I hear any nominations? Please state your name and then your nominee's name, and I will give all other board members intervals of time for other names if necessary.
Sylvan.
Yes.
This is Tim Malley to nominate Kenny Hessner to remain as president.
All right, I have Kenny's name. We have a second on that nomination. Are there any other nominations? If not, I will entertain a motion to close nominations.
Motion to close. Timmons.
Second.
Having a motion and second. All those in favor of the motion of nominating Kenny Hassinger as president, I will do a roll call vote. And if you are in favor of Kenny being our president, please say yes. Michael?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes. Yes.
Timon?
Yep.
Alan?
Yes.
Kathleen? Kathleen?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can,
Yes.
Kathleen.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Tim?
Yeah.
Tim? Carrie?
Yeah.
And I vote yes also.
I don't think that was Carrie. I thought that was Tim.
Yeah, I don't think that was Carrie.
I don't think that was Carrie.
At this time, it's my pleasure to announce that Mr. Hassinger is now declared elected to be board president by majority vote.
Before I turn this meeting over, though, to our not-so-new president, I would like to express how much I and the remainder of the Board of Ed members have appreciated the job Mr. Hassinger has done this past year, especially considering COVID-19 and how it has changed everything in our lives. His leadership has been beyond exceptional. Mr. Hassinger, congratulations, and the remainder of this reorganization meeting is now yours.
All right.
Thank you, Sylvan. Nominations are now in order for the office of Board Vice President. Do I hear any nominations?
Mr. President, this is Amy Beth Hodges, and I would like to nominate Al Moyer for Vice President.
Second.
Tim Sigmund, I'd like to second that.
Are there any other nominations? If there are no more nomination, a motion to close nominations now in order. May I have that, please?
Motion.
Second.
We'll now have a roll call vote for the office of Board President. Please state yes to the vote for the candidate or no if you're not in favor of the candidate.
Vice President.
Sylvan.
Yes.
Amy Beth.
Yes.
Mike.
Yes.
Yes. Carrie. Carrie.
Yes.
Thank you. Timon.
Yes.
Al.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Kathleen. And I vote yes.
Just for a point of clarification, having this mask on, I'm not sure, but I thought I heard Mr. Hassinger say president, and it should have been vice president, but I think everybody understands that, but just so the record shows that that vote was for the vice president.
Thank you, Sylvan. I thought I said vice president, but I may have been looking at the other.
Sylvan, I especially appreciate your clarification on that.
Moving on the agenda, number 5, the solicitor. It's 5.1, solicitor's approval. The recommended action of the board discuss and take Mr. McQuaid as solicitor of the Gettysburg Area School District. May I have a motion for 5.1, please?
Motion for 5.1, Timon.
Second, Tim Sigmund.
Question? Hearing no question, roll call. Kathleen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. Amy Beth?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Newspaper of record 6.1, newspaper adoption. May I have a motion, please?
This is Amy Beth. I'd like to put through a motion, please.
Second. Al Moyer, second.
Question? Roll call. Mike? Yes. Carrie?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 7.1, monthly meeting approval. May I have a motion?
So moved, Sylvan Hershey.
Second, Mike Dickerson. Question? Roll call. Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 8.1 agreement, state and federal law, regulations, and standards. May I have a motion?
I make a motion. 10 seconds.
Second, Sylvan Hershey.
Question? Roll call vote. Sylvan?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 9.1 PSBA legislative selection. May I have a motion?
So moved, Sylvan Hershey.
Second, Mike Dickerson.
Mike, second that. Question? Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 10.1 approval, York Adams Tax Bureau Representatives. Motion, please.
Kenny, 1 second. This is Jason. I just had one question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did someone nominate somebody for that last one?
You know, I was looking at it and I didn't see it on here as a nomination, so we have voted on that. I'm now going to open up the floor for nominations under 9.1 PSBA legislative selection. Is there any nominations for our legislative chairperson?
I nominate Amy Beth.
Al Moyer, I second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations for the PSBA legislative chairperson? Hearing none, a roll call, yes or no for the selection. Amy Beth has received a first and a second nomination to that position. Roll call, Sylvan?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Timon? Timon?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Jason. 10.1 approval, York Adams Tax Bureau Representatives. May I have a motion?
So moved, Mike Dickerson.
Second, Al Moyer.
Question?
Are we doing what it says on the agenda, recommended action now, or following approval of this?
No, we're doing the recommended action now.
Okay.
Yeah, that vote is on that. We have a first and second, and that's actually on their agenda. Any questions on the action before the board at this time? Roll call. I'm sorry, was there a question?
Who was nominated? Somebody shuffling papers and I couldn't hear.
There is no nomination. This is a recommended action that Belinda Wallen and Tom Portman, alternate representative, they're representing our district at the York Adams Tax Bureau for the year 2021.
Okay.
Roll call. Kathleen?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. At this point, our reorganization meeting will be adjourned, and we'll move directly into our December 7th School Board Directors meeting without objection. This time I'll call the regular meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Public comment is welcome, and issues will be referred to the appropriate board, committee, or administrator. Comments will be summarized in the official board minutes, which will be available by contacting the business office. Please take a moment and silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices. Roll call. Ms. Collins, all board members are present and accounted for on this Zoom meeting. The board members that are present here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notices and communications. Jason?
Yeah.
Nothing, Kenny.
Citizens participation, I'm being told that the board has not received any via email. And Andrew, am I correct? There is no citizen participation through your site?
That is correct. I just checked one more time, and there is no citizens participation.
Thank you, Andrew. Number 5, routine approvals. It's 5.1 through 5.7. May I have a motion?
So moved, Sylvan Hershey.
Second,
Al Moyer.
Question?
I have Pratt.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
All right. Excused, as you may recall, from the November 16th board meeting. Shall I abstain from voting on those minutes?
That would be appropriate.
Was that you, Bob? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear who said that would be appropriate.
Forgive me, I don't have the either the agenda or the minutes in front of me. I was chasing after a COVID test today, so I don't have that in front of me.
Oh, my question.
Kathleen, that was me, Sylvan Hershey, that said that would be appropriate.
So as well. All right. And just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
So is it your intentions, Kathleen, to abstain from 5.1 and 5.2?
Mr. President, just 5.2, as that was the only meeting that I was used from. I was in attendance at the 5.1 meeting, so I will vote on those minutes.
Okay, for the purposes of reorganizing this, routine approvals on a bulk vote will be 5.1, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, and 5.7. May I have a motion on those, please?
So moved, Sylvan Hershey.
Second, me, Beth Hodges.
Question?
Not a question, but a comment. This is Al Moyer. I do want to commend our leadership team for the course selection guide. It was interesting reading through there and the additional courses that are really developmentally appropriate and timely for the situation that we're in a contemporary basis. So I was impressed in reading the course selection guide and happy to support it.
Any additional question on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yeah.
Carrie?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We're going to go back to 5.2 for purposes of having a clear record. May I have a motion for approval of 5.2?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, I had two people that actually kind of jumped on at the same time. Could you say your name and first and second, please?
Amy Beth Hodges, I'd like to put in a motion. Thank you.
Tim Sigmund, second.
Amy Beth and Tim Sigmund, thank you. Question? Hearing no questions, 5.2, roll call. Carrie?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Abstain.
Timon?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Moving forward, items for board action. The first item is 6.1, Athletic League approval. The board's here to discuss and take action on a request to approve a recommendation by the administration to move to the Mid-Penn Athletic League beginning the calendar year of 2022 through 2023 school year. May I have a motion?
So, Al Moyer, so moved.
Sylvan Hershey, second.
Question?
Question, Sylvan Hershey, beginning with the 2022-2023 school year, I believe our commitment, though, is beyond that, or not?
I would defer to Casey. I mean, I can answer that question, but Casey, if you're on, did you hear the question that Sylvan has?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Casey, I think, and you can correct me, Sylvan, it says beginning 2022, 2023. So the question was, is our commitment to the Mid-Penn would extend past that particular one year period?
We would be in the league as long as we continued to stay in the league. It would require a vote like this to be removed from the league.
Okay. Thank you, Casey. Does any board member have any additional questions on 6.1?
Mr. President, it's Kathleen Pratt. I do. Are you all able to hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. You're clear.
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you. All right, I just want to understand the pros and the cons of making the switch. So help me out a little bit. As I read the proposal, I see that the pros are the average time spent in travel will lessen. And I also see a pro as being JV opportunities improving. Cons, if I'm reading this correctly, are that for baseball, the out-of-division games to ensure we're playing 5A and 6A games could be a challenge. And if I'm reading it correctly, for girls basketball, since they'll be moving to a less competitive league, that would drastically change their non-league schedule to ensure they're picking up competitive games. And again, if I'm reading it right, I see another con is being that volleyball will be less competitive. So if I'm correct on all of those, my question is there a specific team or teams that this move is better for? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. I would defer now to, again, Casey and Jeremy. I believe both of those individuals worked rather diligently on coming up with the proposal. So either Jeremy or Casey, if you could address that question, please.
Casey Thurston, athletic director. I do believe that when I asked all the coaches, those were the three that were more adamant about the move to a Mid-Penn conference, or the move to the Mid-Penn conference would be less beneficial for them. Obviously, any move is not going to be 100% across the board, regardless of whether we stay or whether we go. The other coaches were in favor of moving for various reasons. Yes, some of them would be more competitive, like a wrestling. Others, just the travel time and the division alignment and how they align divisions was better. But you have to understand, when we talk about girls basketball and volleyball, the District 3 powerhouses are sitting in our division in York Adams. So obviously, if we want the best competition, one of the things that we're going to have to do with a move to Mid-Penn is schedule back into that division with non-conference games. So all of our games that aren't put on the schedule by Mid-Penn, we can schedule back into that division.
Casey, it's Kenny. I believe there was in Kathleen's question, and Kathleen, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was posed as to whether or not there was an option where certain sports could stay where they're at and other sports could move. If I'm correct, Kathleen, I believe that's what you had additionally asked?
I didn't hear that.
No, actually, I did not ask that question.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, my question was really, as I see, again, see what the benefits are, I'm also seeing there are some drawbacks. Those three teams, baseball, girls basketball, volleyball, they're as important to us as all of the teams, right, would be wrestling and football, et cetera. So my question really was in trying to understand almost how we got here. If we look at this program holistically, as we do, I was just curious to know, if there were specific teams that this really benefited that would outweigh the challenges that this would give to baseball, girls basketball, and volleyball.
I think what I did, Kathy, when I made this up is I wanted to be as transparent as possible when saying who it may not benefit. Because I don't think that you can make a decision without knowing that there are certain teams who will be impacted by this. I obviously didn't directly list that it's going to be beneficial for, like football, like wrestling, like boys basketball, especially that would move into that division, softball. So it was just one of those things of upon creation, trying to be as transparent as possible so that an informed decision could be made.
Yes, and I have
Mr. President.
Can you hear me? Okay. Andrew, give me a nod. Yes?
Go ahead. Yes, Jeremy. I don't know.
From my perspective, this is something, again, I arrived at Gettysburg shortly after the move from the Mid-Penn to the York Adams League, and it was probably less than a week in my time as an administrator at the high school that I heard people say, hey, nice to meet you. If there's anything you can do to get us back into the Mid-Penn, that would be a good thing. Of course, that was year one in the York Adams. So this is something that I've heard about over the course of 6 years. And again, it's not a clear decision, as in there's 100 reasons to do it and 0 reasons not to do it. I'd say if you had to quantify it, it's a 60-40 split. Again, holistically looking at all the programs and talking to all of the stakeholders, it just seemed to be the general will, and there are some reasons to do it. And I think alignment to divisions that does consider program strength is one of the things that helps influence me to recommend it. Again, there's reasons not to. Change in some ways it's a lateral change, and again, there's certain programs that are already sitting in divisions that suit them well. So obviously they'll, like Casey said, need to stay in tune with their scheduling to make sure that they schedule to correct any shift in terms of competition that they'll experience. So again, it's not a black and white decision, but again, it's something that we've heard about over the course of many years since we switched from the Mid-Penn to York Adams. But it's something that is by no means crystal clear. It's just weighing all the evidence. It's our recommendation, though.
Carrie, I've been informed that, do you have a question?
I do. Thank you. And I want to make sure Jeremy was finished first. Yeah. Okay. So, Casey, following the question asked by Mrs. Pratt, you mentioned scheduling games that are out of the league. How many games would, say, the girls basketball team need to play within the league, like minimum? Is there a minimum for that? And then how many, when you look to add on, so does that make a more robust, like longer schedule of games for them? How does that work out?
Typically in conference, you're put in a division depending on the number. So, for example, in York Adams right now, you're allowed, PIAA allows 22 games, and they schedule 16 of them. You have the option to schedule out 6 other games with whoever you want. Mid-Penn, when we were there, they were scheduling 14 at the time. So it really depends on the size of the division. So you can end up getting 6 to 8 games that you have to schedule with non-division opponents. And you can stay in Mid-Penn if you want. You can go back into York Adams divisions if you want. And I think that's where working directly with the coaches, where you have to figure out who they want to schedule. Because when you start looking at playoffs, the power rankings, they're going to want to schedule certain teams, like a girls basketball, they're going to want to schedule back into Division II. They might also want to schedule up higher in Mid-Penn, and that's what they're going to be allowed. So there is wiggle room in every schedule when you're building them, usually 6 to 8 games, depending on the sport.
Could you explain what you mean by schedule higher up into Mid-Penn?
My assumption is based on geography and program strength that the majority of our teams would be put in Mid-Penn Colonial, which would be like Northern, Greencastle, Waynesboro, schools that are our size. But let's say you wanted to play up a division in Mid-Penn Keystone or up a division in Mid-Penn Commonwealth, which would be like your Cumberland Valleys or Central Dolphins, or maybe your Middletown, whatever it ends up being. So you have that ability to move up even within divisions in Mid-Penn, scheduling outside division games.
So I take that to mean that if you're looking to schedule out of the division and in your classification, you could go York Adams, or you could go into another, I don't want to use conference, I think that would be the wrong term, but category within the Mid-Penn is what I'm understanding. So you have more options, perhaps.
Correct, and we do that now. I mean, if you took a look right now, let's say at the girls' basketball schedule, they have games within York Adams 2, which is the division that we're in, but we're also going to play Shippensburg, we're going to play Hershey, we're going to play Lampeter Stroudsburg. So those games are where you build in what the coach in particular wants in a way that they're trying to build a schedule, whether it's to start building a program or whether it's to keep a program at the top of the power rankings.
Thank you.
Kenny, can you hear us?
I'm sorry, we had a little technical glitch. Sylvan had asked a question, and I'm confident nobody heard him.
Casey, I ask this question, or that I make this statement for public clarification. This change of leagues for us will not impact on our District 3 rankings or tournament seedings, correct?
That would not be correct. Every game you play goes towards a different district power ranking, so it will depend on who you schedule.
Right, I understand that, but just so people understand out there that the change in leagues doesn't impact on the way the district looks at us and our own schedules and who we determine to play, and it's still going to be handled the same way.
Correct. They're all, Mid-Penn and York Adams are both not District 3.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Not hearing any additional questions on the item on the table, 6.1 Athletic League approval. Roll call. Tim?
Yes.
Kathleen?
No.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Timon?
No.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries. 6.2, the District Health and Safety Plan. There were updated recommendations to the District Health and Safety Plan. Some of those were precipitated by the governor's recommendations, or actually decree, that each district within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania needed to update the health and safety plan to take into account certain changes from the Department of Health and from the governor's office. May I have a motion to approve that?
So moved, Mike Dickerson.
Second, Amy Beth Hodges.
Questions? Question? Hearing no questions, roll call. Carrie?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Sylvan?
Yes.
Timon?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Informational item 7.1, 5-year plan, replace gym divider, folding partition. Jason, do you want to go down through each of these informational items, or do you want to, how do you want to entertain if there's any questions related to any specific informational item?
We could just, they're information, so if anybody has questions about any of them, Wayne or Tom or Belinda could respond.
Thank you. For the purposes of keeping some semblance of order here, we'll just go down right through them. 7.1, the replace of the gym divider, folding partition. Do any board members have any questions related to that informational item? The next item is 7.2, the Strabane Township Building Permit Review and Inspection Fee. Do any board members have any questions related to that informational item?
Kenny, this is Tim Sidney. And I'm assuming this is probably to Wayne, but I was trying to figure out the permit fee of $61,000 just seems a little high. Is that normal for a school building project? I just thought it was quite high just for inspections.
Thanks for the question, Tim.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob, because I'll let you preface what I'm going to say, because you're going to say exactly what I'm going to, and it'd be better coming from you.
Okay. This is Bob McQuaid, and again, I apologize. I have not had an opportunity to have the agenda in front of me. On the inspection fee with the township, that is a work in progress. The township charges a fee based on the amount or the cost of the project. And we have engaged in a dialogue. I have engaged in a dialogue with the solicitor for the township, and we will be attempting to convince them that that fee should be lower. The law says that a township cannot charge anything more than the cost to the township for performing a municipal service. And so we want to see the fee that we pay more closely mirror what it costs them to supervise or inspect the project, rather than an arbitrary figure. So that, my advice has been, whatever fee we need to pay so we don't slow up the project, pay it, but we pay it under protest and then negotiate the actual fee.
All right. Well, thank you. It just seemed a little high to me, being in this field. So, but I appreciate it.
Are there any additional questions on 7.2?
Mr. President, Sylvan Hershey, when this comes up for vote, I'm assuming then that it could change either in wording or in amount?
Mr. McQuaid?
Well, at this point, we're hoping that the amount will change, yes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on 7.2? Hearing none. 7.3, the cooperative purchasing programs. Are there any questions from any board members related to 7.3? Hearing no questions, the next subject is 7.4, the high school HVAC renovation project. Do any board members have any questions related to that?
I do. This is Tim Sigmund. Mine are in reference to the proposed main auxiliary gym project, and I'm just trying to figure out. I'm sorry, I can hear the paper dropping. So it's my understanding that this new project would leave us with a 14-foot high ceiling in the resting room. Is that correct?
The auxiliary gym, the lower level auxiliary gym, will be a 14-foot high ceiling. That is correct. Okay.
So in saying that, if that project happens, then the cheerleaders can no longer use that facility because they require a 16-foot high minimum ceiling for stunting. So where are the cheerleaders going to now stunt without being able to use that wrestling room?
Mr. Lusk, are you available to answer that?
Yes. They have used different spaces to do that over the course of time. One, the cafeteria, though I would prefer the gym space, but we all know that gym space is shared. There's other places that have high enough space to do that. I am aware that that is a loss for them specifically, which I'd rather not do. But in the case of, again, making the generally right decision, something that I think about too.
I'll just add in that the competition cheer hasn't used the auxiliary gym yet this year for practices this winter. They've been over at James Geddes, who's graciously allowed them to use their gym for competition practices. So there are other locations within the district that we do schedule practices around.
Okay. And then, so my other question was, in the decision to pursue this original project, was the, and I'm assuming, I think this was probably considered before Casey became athletic director, anything, I believe, but was this project addressed to, or was the questions given to the coaches of the school, the phys ed teacher, and the acting athletic director at the time? Was it brought to their attention and asked if this is something that they need or want or will use? Was their input taken at all in the thought process of this project?
I would say that this, much like what I just said about the move to the Mid-Penn, has been a conversation that I've been part of since my first days at Gettysburg, again, dating back over 6 years. And I've heard about every different idea imaginable. So I've talked to many of the coaches, talked to the whole athletic or physical education staff, of course, and Mike Williams, was involved in this conversation before Casey took the helm as AD. So this is another one of those evolving conversations, and knowing the cost of building on new ground versus the current plan, it seems to be clearly the most advantageous plan that I've heard yet. I know that in previous conversations, including our walkthrough, the idea of field houses and of course there's all kinds of different things that could take shape in terms of a field house. But even adding on to the building, I've heard many different plans. But to answer your question, I'd say that Casey and I have both talked to coaches thoroughly, and the physical education staff as well. So I actually talked to a couple coaches more recently, including today, about some of the details of this. And, it's one of those things that, as far as what goes into the room, eventually over the course of time, what actually evolves and how that room is used and equipment over the course of time, that'll require more consultation. But in terms of actual just space to be used, I think this is the plan, which is why it's the recommendation from us.
Okay, and I guess I've struggled, and as most of the people on the Zoom probably have heard me say before, but I just don't I guess cost for what you get out of it doesn't really appeal to me personally. I think that, and I know, and Casey could correct me if I'm wrong, I know Casey really struggles at times with scheduling sports using the gym and inclement weather and so on and so forth. And hence is why I personally thought a field house, something like that, would have been better off for the district as a whole, because we do struggle with that. And then, not to mention the other usage you get out of it. If band was in the rain and needed a place to practice, they could have practiced in there. If gym class was doing something outside and it was raining, they could still do it in there. And people wouldn't be abusing the gym floor. I know that there are kids that at times are in at the school practicing till 9 o'clock at night. And we shouldn't have kids in that school practicing till 9 o'clock at night because we don't have a place for them to practice. And that's a shame. The other question I had was, I know during our last discussion, they said that they were adding a utility room to the upstairs space, and they were also, you have to have a ramp and steps. So my question is how many square feet is the existing weight room, and how much usable square feet will be in the new proposed auxiliary gym second level, minus the utility room and minus the ramp and the stairs, to see how much room we're actually gaining from this project?
Tim, I'd have to do some calculations, but I certainly will do those and get them off to you and the rest of the board members via email.
That's fine. I'm just trying to justify, and I'm just using a rough example, so I'm not setting this in stone, but if it was, we were gaining 1,000 square feet of space, I have a hard time justifying, almost $1 million for 1,000 square feet of space. The per square foot price wouldn't make much sense. So I would appreciate those numbers, Mr. Crosby. I would. Jeremy, in this cost of the auxiliary gym 2 would not include any new equipment. That would be an extra cost to the district as well, the weight room.
Right. We don't have plans to do that at this point, though. It is definitely a goal to improve the equipment to be used. We've already talked about what we would do to space out the equipment that we do have, and also knowing how that equipment's used again, especially Olympic type lifts that are performed in the center of that room as is, that we've discussed as being a bit of a safety hazard, oftentimes, including both in PE classes and as sports teams use that space. So we definitely look forward to spacing some of those things out. And obviously there's all kinds of different types of equipment that could be considered for a space like that. But we'll have to look at a long-term plan. And again, those are some things that I'll be anxious to work with some folks down the road to make sure that we put together a sensible progression of add-ons to that space. But no, the cost is not outfit the room with all kinds of new equipment.
All right, and I understand, and I'd like to thank everybody who put the time and effort into proposing this auxiliary gym over time, and I know that was, I guess, put into play per se before my time on the school board. But I would like to say that I believe that if we were going to spend some money to do something for the athletes and physical education students of our district, that we should do something that benefits all the athletes and not necessarily just a portion, because not all the sports use the weight room, but all of them could use field house. And we could also rent the facility out. I know that there are ways to do that economically. It doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal, per se, if we would do something like that. But I think that it is more worth of the district time and money to venture in that direction than it is to spend this kind of money just to gain one floor of space in our district.
And Mr. Sigmund, I understand what you're saying there, and I do know that certain, sports teams and groups may benefit more by, a field house per se, and I agree that it wouldn't need to be the Taj Mahal. Even just a covered turf field could serve a group like the band well, and we've already talked about, why it might be advantageous to build some turf fields, and we already know what the cost of those projects are, and decided let's set that aside for now. So, I mean, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I would say that the plan that we have on the table right now does serve more students, in that every single student who is required to take PE each year of their high school experience will in some way take advantage of that room. And as I shared in previous meetings, the elective offerings that have become increasingly popular that our PE department offers all include something that would happen in that room. So just looking at the sheer numbers from a physical education standpoint and knowing the direction that that curriculum is moving in terms of personal physical fitness, that's why it makes the most sense to me. Obviously, our sports teams will benefit and can share space where right now, you know, they compete to find a spot on the schedule. You know, looking at the addition of space to that room, you could bring in more teams than one. I wouldn't say more than two, but you could certainly share that. And you know, just increasing the room. And again, Wayne can get you the specifics to make sure the numbers make sense to you before you decide whether it's a yes or a no. You know, I just know that it'll be well used, and looking at some of the movements, like I said earlier, that will be performed in that room, just from a safety standpoint, you know, it makes sense. And I think we've also talked about supervision before, as we've really put the pressure on our PE staff to supervise class there, knowing that it would be in close proximity to the track, and we've proposed the addition of some windows along that wall that adjoins the room to the track area, but it allows supervision from any staff member, whether it's a physical education teacher or a coach, to supervise both the weight room and exercises on the track level as well, which is a huge advantage, because right now the placement of that weight room really limits one's ability to supervise any other activity at the same time. Not that you want to do that too much anyways, but there's a supervision improvement there.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some of the new course stuff for physical education included speed and agility, CrossFit, which would have been probably better to have in the field house than it would be inside the school anyway, especially with speed and agility. I just, you know, in doing we'll say a field house, for lack of a better term, which would encompass a field plus the weight room, which would still expand the wrestling room. It seems like if you're spending almost $1 million now just to put a floor in, when you could put that towards a proposed field house, and then you decide 5 years from now to attempt to do one, it's going to be 3 times the cost that it is now. And I just think it's a better investment for the district to pursue the field house now and encompass the weight room into that project instead of doing what we're doing as a whole. And that's just my personal opinion. It's not to step on anybody's pre-existing idea. And I do have a construction background, so I'm looking at it in that sense as far as doing something that you're not spending something twice to do. And I think that would benefit every student in the district to be a field house instead of a portion, whether it be 3/4 or 75 or whatever, as a majority using it all the time. And I do know that doing that would greatly help me in the scheduling process with the use of the gym, and it also would take wear and tear off of that gym floor that we had used with all the baseball inside and football inside and doing all those other things. But that's all the questions I have. I just thank you guys for your input.
Thanks for the question, Tim. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim. And I'm going to get to every board member. I'm trying to do this a little methodically. Carrie, do you have a question? I'm being told you do.
I just want a point of clarification more so. Thank you, Kenny. I believe the question about the space that is to be renovated in the auxiliary gym has been in question since before the days since the days Carlos Wampler was the athletic director. It was almost as, from my understanding, when they moved into the building and began to use that space, that it was immediately noted that it was not as even usable as the former high school's space for the weight room and the small gym. So it's been in the minds of the administration for some time to think about how to make that space more usable. And Jeremy, you did a great job of pointing out it's also about the everyday use during school hours of that space. That's important too, and that would have been on a part of those conversations. So it's just a point of clarification, but thank you, Kenny.
Thank you. Do any other board members have any additional questions?
Mr. President, not a question, but a comment. Al Moyer, I appreciate everything Tim was saying regarding trying to do more for the most amount of people, and also that we prefer not to have students practicing that are on athletic teams until 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. I would submit, though, that for a district our size of about 3,000 students, our facilities at our high school are tremendous. I don't know how else to say it compared to anybody else in this Tri-County area. And also, in addition to the gymnasium and the athletic facilities that we have at the high school, I believe the middle school gym is a full-size gymnasium, and the Lincoln Elementary School, when it was renovated to become an elementary and so on, being a former high school, the gymnasium in there is also fantastic. So the reason I would have trouble supporting a field house concept is that I do believe, especially for the size district that we are and the number of athletic teams that we have and physical education program and so on, I know we mentioned the cheerleaders and using James Geddes, but I also think there are a lot of other options in the other facilities outside of the high school that make a field house that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. So I would be in support of the recommendation for the renovation, given where we're at. Thank you.
The floor is open to any board member. If there's another board member that has a question, please feel free to address it here.
Yes, hi, thank you. This is Kathleen Pratt. And I just want a little bit of a memory refresher to feel better. As I recall, the HVAC project is something that we really need. And the other items are things that we also need, but they're more like value-added items, correct? So if we approve the HVAC project and we also approve the other smaller projects along with it, when I say value-added, I recall that we're getting some terrific discounts with them. Is that correct?
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. There is value in doing this work all at one time. All the contractors will be on site. If we choose to do the base HVAC project, all the contractors will be on site, which gives us what they call general conditions for the folks to be there. It's certainly a savings, and I would estimate at least a 30% savings just in the construction work itself. If you went back and did one of these projects standalone, you'd take that 30% and add on some of the soft costs, engineering, permitting, construction management, all those things would probably have to take place also. So there is certainly savings to doing it all at one time.
Kathleen, do you have a follow-up?
not coming through.
Hear me again. No, I don't have a follow-up question, but I just was saying that, you know, it's all stewards of taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. I just really appreciate, Wayne, that you have found a way to save them 30%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I do have a question for you, Wayne, while I'm waiting to see if any other board members do. And it's more, I don't want to call it a rhetorical question, but really I believe that this comes down to choices where we're going to make a decision, and I'll talk about that later on, as to whether or not each of these items we're going to vote on and how we're going to vote on them based upon how the bids came in and depending on whether or not the certain projects are tangled in with other ones or intertwined, which changes the bid price. I think that's my understanding after the committee meeting. Am I correct so far, Wayne?
As a whole, the the documents that you guys have that shows the base HVAC project and Belinda has base sum, all those are interrelated for the base, and we would have to accept the contract from each of those contractors for the work that they do to accomplish that base work. When you get into like the toll petitions, that's very standalone. The board could either choose to have those or not. The auxiliary gym, you see there's alternates for each of the contractors for their participation in the auxiliary gym. So we would have to accept the contracts for those 5 in one lump if the board decided to do the auxiliary gym. The nitrogen purge is a standalone. It's related to the fire suppression system. And the 2 terrazzo, so it would be alternate G3, the terrazzo lobby and cafeteria, would be a standalone. A decision could be made by the board whether they choose to do that or not. And as with alternate G4, the terrazzo library stairs, that is a standalone process also.
And to follow up on that, and again, it's basically I'm asking if my understanding of this is correct. Is it not, and Mr. Sigmund certainly can defer on this question also if he would disagree, that if the board would vote on the HVAC system, there is a significant likelihood, in fact, I would submit that it will never happen, the gymnasium, due to the fact that you're reconfiguring all of your ductwork, you're changing out on the second floor track area where we currently have the machinery up there for the air conditioning and heating. So it would benefit if the board saw fit with the gymnasium, this would be the time, because I don't think we're ever going to recognize another time for it. Would I be accurate in that?
You would be accurate in that for 2 reasons. One of them, if we move forward with just the base project, and I made the renovations and replaced equipment, that mechanical room that you alluded to that's currently there, that would have to go away if the board decided 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road to take this plan and this process that we've developed and implement it. So we would be wasting funds there for work that we'd have to do twice. And another reason that I believe that we will never get this cheaper, I shouldn't say that because who knows, if we went to, a serious depression or something, the bids that we got back they're crazy low, to be honest with you. Even from bids that we saw from neighboring school districts that just opened bids in the past several months, this work we're getting a lot of value for the amount. So I do believe, even in a different economy, the total amount for the auxiliary gym would be more than what we're seeing here.
Thank you. The floor is still open for any board members if you have a question.
Mr. President, are you saying there are no other questions in the queue and no one else is waiting?
I don't believe there's anybody, I don't have access to that. Andrew's letting me know that remotely, but right now I'm not hearing anybody wanting to step up to the floor, so I'm guessing there are no further questions unless you have one.
I would like to make a motion to make this an action item. The Finance and Facilities Committee has met multiple times about this. We have toured the high school. We've had lengthy discussions, and I certainly appreciate all of the time and energy that the Finance and Facilities Committee members have spent deliberating and asking great questions, as well as the amount of time that all of those who contributed to the proposal that's been shared as information item. I would like to move to make that an action item for tonight.
Mr. President. Mr. President Kenny.
Mike, go ahead.
Yes. Before there's a second, I would just like to say that Mr. Sigmund did request an updated floor drawing or document requesting usable floor space and other things. And I don't personally see the rush in trying to vote on this tonight. If there's still information that we could review and have some maybe additional questions that may come up from that document. That's just my thought. I just wanted to share that.
Well, Mike, thank you. And and I understand Carrie's motion. From a board perspective, it would be my intention if we did not make this an action item this evening based on some timely matters, that I would be inclined to schedule a special board meeting next Monday, December 14th at 7 p.m. for this one isolated item. And it would give me, and we would have a vote. I don't know if that time frame meets where in Carrie's motion, if she wants to reconsider, or we can wait for a second and vote as to that motion. But one way or the other, it was my intentions from my position to put this on a December 14th special board meeting.
Mr. President, Kathleen Pratt, I'll second that motion. I think there may be members here this evening that are prepared to vote this evening. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor to move 7.4 to an action item this evening. Do I have any question? Do I have a question?
Kenny, this is Tim.
Go ahead, Tim.
I really would like to see the square footage numbers to see what value we are getting per square foot for this project. And I think everybody should have to be able to see that we're what we're getting for that money. And thinking that what has been brought to the table in question should be thought over for a week before we do vote.
And I may have misspoke because I would be deferring to Wayne, Jason, and the admin team as to when they would prefer a vote if we did not vote this evening. I'm not saying we're not voting, but if the motion does not carry, then it would be an action item as soon as Jason would recommend it to be voted on by the board. Do I have any additional questions on the motion on the floor? Roll call vote on the motion. The motion here this evening is to move 7.4 to an action item this evening. A vote of yes moves it to the floor for an action item. A vote of no puts it back as an informational item, or it stays an informational item pending information from the administration. Carrie?
Yes?
Al?
I would like to support the project, but I certainly can wait a week and look at additional information, so I'll say no.
Mike?
No.
Sylvan?
No, for the same reasons Al stated.
Timon?
No.
Kathleen?
No.
Amy Beth?
No.
Tim?
No.
And I will vote no. Are there any additional questions on 7.4 before we move on?
So Kenny, just to follow up then, just given the timelines for bid awards and those kind of things, we try to get the requested information out to the board over the next couple of days, and then I'm hearing folks correctly, we would schedule a special meeting for the 14th.
If that would be your recommendation, Jason, then I certainly would entertain a special board meeting for that specific item, and any other routine business that we can any other routine business that we may or may not be able to clear, or we would be able to clear up for the month of December, because this is a one board, or it's always one meeting a month during this month. So I'll wait to hear from you, and we can get the proper public notification out.
Yeah, I think that timeline-wise, we should shoot for the 14th. I don't think our team will have problems getting the information out to the full board with enough time to look at it.
Thank you. Board committee reports. And I'm going to actually go down through first and see if by board members, so we're not stepping on each other. Carrie, do you have anything from your finance committee, please? Carrie?
There we go. Okay. Nothing to add. We just, about the Finance Facilities Committee, we just discussed the same topic of the last meeting, which was the HVAC renovation project. So I think that completes the report.
Thank you, Carrie. Amy Beth? Amy Beth?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I wanted to first thank everybody, my fellow colleagues on the board, for unanimously nominating me for the legislative liaison position. It really has been an honor. I do have a report tonight, and I want to be cognizant of our time. I know that it's been a long meeting. I need about 6 minutes of your time. The 2019 through 20 session of the General Assembly officially ended November 3rd. All bills introduced during the session have now expired. The 21 through 22 session will convene on January 5th, as required by state constitution that calls for the legislators to meet the first Tuesday of January each year. The 2-year session will open with the swearing of the freshman legislators, and all returned members of the Senate and House representatives will be sworn in. We have retained through election our House Representative Dan Mao and our Senate Representative Doug Mastriano and Congressman John Joyce. The Pennsylvania School Board Association advocacy work impacted the following bills that have been signed into law. I attended the 2020 Advocacy Center conference and got the privilege of speaking with all of the mentioned representatives related to the information detailed by me this evening. House Bill 2536, now Act 114, is an omnibus fiscal code bill enacted along with the new budget bill containing various provisions related to the state budget. In addition, the Act includes language sought by PBSA to authorize emergency tax anticipation notes that will be held in local government units, including school districts, to manage cash flows and short-term debt during the current pandemic. House Bill 1342, now Act 122, is a vision screening, and this act requires the first-time school students to have a vision screening in the 12 months prior to the first day of school. The act also modifies the current school vision screening schedule. School districts must perform student screening tests every year through 5th grade and at least every other year through 12th grade. If a child fails the required screening, the Department of Health is contacted. The child should have a comprehensive eye examination with 120 days before the start of the school year, whichever comes first. House Bill 1962, now Act 128, requires the public school employees retirement system and the state employees retirement system to each perform an annual stress test, including various scenarios, simulation, and sensitive analysis. House Bill 1962 also increases training requirements for these boards. Senate Bill 835, now Act 132, creates the Unserved High-Speed Broadband Funding Program and funding it in part by releasing the $5 million mobile telecommunication broadband investment tax credit. The grant program provides funding to improve access high-speed broadband internet in rural areas currently do not have access to reliable networks. It limits the funding and entities which have demonstrated the ability to construct and administer internet services and require that they provide 25% of the funding for the project. Senate Bill 1216, now Act 136, makes numerous changes to the school code, much of which are applicable to the 2021 school year. It contains several provisions regarding graduation requirements. It's got testing, non-public student transportation, it's got certification flexibilities to occur in future teachers and paraprofessionals. PBSA was directly involved in the negotiations on the final version of this bill. Some of the highlights: testing and keystone exams. For 2019 and 20 school year and any subsequent years in which the federal government has waived testing requirements, any student who completed the course and the academic content are associated with the Keystone exam is not required to take the Keystone exam related to that course. The students will be deemed proficient based on successful competition of locally established grade-based requirements for the academic content areas associated with those Keystone exams. So we have NIMS, which is NOCTI testing. It allows the Secretary of Education to waive the National Institute of Metal Worker skills associated with the National Occupation Competency Test Institute. These are exams on a school-wide basis for the specific career and technical education programs provided by a school entity based on the recommendations of a director of a career and a technical education program. We have graduation requirements. So this delays the implementation of statewide graduation requirements under Act 158 of the 2018 until the 2022 through 2023 school year. It also allows school districts to use the Keystone exam as a graduation requirement until 2013 if they wish to do so. Therefore, districts may set their own graduation requirements. Federal testing waiver. So this allows the Secretary of Education to apply a waiver of federal testing and accountability requirements for the 2020 through 2021 school year. A secretary cannot do so in future years without approval from the General Assembly. Employee evaluation. So this allows the secretary to waive the requirements to include student performance data otherwise required in a professional employee performance rating. We have two, also, there's the public transportation subsidy and the non-public transportation. And these ensure that schools receive subsidy payments so that they can basically equal the previous year and ensure the transportation contractors receive the payments for the school entity at normal cost. One thing that I wanted to mention, I did believe it was worth mentioning, so we have the PBSA was disappointed in general. The governor had vetoed liability protection for schools. So on behalf of 500 school districts across the Commonwealth, PBSA asked Governor Wolf to support the signed House Bill 1737. So it's offering limited COVID-19 liability protections against frivolous and unsustained lawsuits involved claiming of exposure for the virus. And the support of legislators and the fact that they understood the importance of legislation protection districts and ultimately the taxpayers. But unfortunately, it was vetoed by the governor. In conclusion, as we embark on another year and another new legislative session, PBSA and myself as your legislative liaison will be working harder than ever as your advocate for your legislative priorities and goals. Thank you for your time.
Kenny, it looks like you're muted.
Mike?
I think I put Ken to sleep. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Amy Beth. Thank you, Amy Beth. I was star six accidentally was not working just now. Mike, do you have a committee report?
Thank you, Mr. President. No, that'll be a tough follow. We did not have a meeting for a policy committee meeting last month. Our next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at 4 p.m., and I believe that there will be in-person and Zoom options for that meeting. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I believe, and that is all the committees, if I'm correct, or all the chairpersons of the committees. Okay, moving on. Building and program reports. I've been informed that Jason will not have anything this evening, which leaves us with the calendar of board events. Obviously, if Jason and the district or admin believe that they would like a vote, and that's my understanding as we sit here this evening, I would be scheduling a special board meeting for that purpose on Monday, December 14th, 2020. You'll notice that we jump back into our regular board meetings January 4th, 2021. Does any board member have anything for good of the order?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. President.
Is this Timon?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
There was a lot of noise when we started with the reorganization. Did we nominate a treasurer, or did I miss that?
I can tell you that was not on the agenda. Maybe Jason can allow me. I know. Yes.
Curious.
Yes, Belinda, please help. The treasurer is appointed annually every May. And it's listed in policy in the organization.
Okay.
Thank you, Belinda.
You're welcome.
And the secretary is every 4 years, I believe.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything additional for good of the order?
Mr. President, Al Moyer, just not a question, but a quick comment that I think would be appropriate during this time in December when we're reorganizing, and maybe a quick time to reflect. I know we've had a long meeting, so I'll make this quick. Never before in my 4 decades in education have we had as many challenges that we've had this past year. I think the Gettysburg Area School District entire staff deserves an awful lot of credit and commendations in that regard. It has been a crazy, challenging time, especially for school leaders, like principals, and also I'm going to say our superintendent and our board president. I do believe that these gentlemen and the principals have done a fantastic job, and I think they deserve a lot of kudos. And with that, I would close by just saying I hope on behalf of the board that everyone has a relaxing, fun, and blessed Christmas and New Year's holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Does anybody else have anything for good of the order? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
The board will stand adjourned. Good evening, folks.
Merry Christmas, everyone.